conversation is between two young stalwarts in the art world in Ghana. They stand as symbols of resilience. They are innovators, they are visionaries. They start institutions, they organize community, and we felt that it was necessary to foreground these two strong, powerful, innovative, and dedicated women in the arts in Ghana. Often, when we talk about the arts or when we talk about any endeavor, it's men that are foregrounded. But today, for the tail line, we have a conversation between Stefania Manfreda and Elizabeth Ifwa Sutherland. They are, as I said earlier, representative of what can happen when the youth decide to be at the helm of affairs, especially in the creative field. So without much ado, I will, maybe because Ifwa is far away, we would invite her to introduce herself and tell us a bit about the various things that she does. And then Stefania would do that, and then the conversation would continue. So ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth Ifwa Sutherland.
Okay.
Yep. I think she's speaking. Yeah, not hearing. Ah, good. Woo. Again.
Mr. Bernard, if you could go again.
Okay. Welcome, Ifwa.
Thank you.
Okay. So this first session is only for a quick introduction and then a touch on the few things, the many few things that you have been doing.
Yes. Okay, so my name is Elizabeth Ikwa Sutherland. I'm an artist. I work in performance and in different other media as well, but I also have a space called Terra Alta Foundation, which has been going since 2017 in Accra. Is that short enough?
Oh, a little longer than this short.
Okay. No. I mean, we're talking about networks and communities and stuff. So we've been building our community for longer than 2017, since 2011. That's when I really started being a bit active within the scene, working with dancers, theater people, working with a lot of different groups. So we have a lot of children, for instance, who've grown up in some of the programs who are now no longer children or who have children of their own. We have a lot of people that we've grown with over the past few years and grown towards and away from. And it's been an interesting adventure trying to make it all work within the wonderful place that is Accra and the support and lack thereof sometimes. So those are our main points.
Yeah, thank you. This is a brief intro. Now, Stefania.
Yes.
Yes, you are behind so many things. Important of those are along the local road or
Yes.
local street. So please tell us about what you have been doing, the communities you've been building.
Sure. Thanks for having me. What can I say? At the moment, I am an entrepreneur and I operate in this creative space. I run two concept stores. One is Local House, which is more focused on the urban and the street style lifestyle. And El Loco is a more women-oriented space, but also focuses on African creativity as a whole. So from the fashion to the body care to art of different forms, from photography to whatever. And then aside from that, we have also been involved in organizing a lot of do-it-yourself exhibitions and experiences of any kind. So from DJs coming to, just be in the shop and play, to having pop-ups with, initially things to do with even like upcycling. That's back in 2018, 16, thereabouts. Um, and yeah, just also running other spaces like the Container in partnership with Front Back, Gel Gallery in partnership with the Open House Studio, which was a kind of pop-up gallery which people could just book for very brief exhibitions or experiences of any kind. What else? We run Airbnbs at the moment as well, so you get the full experience. You can literally stay with us and take it all in.
Thank you very much for that. But we've just been informed that a Hyundai car 5001 has been parked with the windows down, so kindly go and close your windows. Hyundai 5001. Yeah, so please go and close the windows. Thank you. Sorry for the break in transmission, we are back. Yeah, thank you for sharing briefly what you do. Now, if I mention the city of Accra,
Great.
and I like your reaction to it. What does Accra mean for you, and how do you navigate the space? Yeah, with all the things that you do. So I'll start this time with you, and then I'll go to Accra.
So Accra is home. Obviously, I grew up here, and you leave and you miss home. You want to come back with all the energy of your youth to improve your surroundings and, cater to the needs that are not met, whichever kind of needs they may be. And yeah, moving back, you immediately see the things that are not being addressed. You feel it in your daily life, and we are constantly battling, with situations and issues. I have kind of it's hard.
So you haven't given up.
We want to talk about our love for Accra, but Accra it changes you. It makes you a hard person because you are dealing with so many issues all the time that I, from my personal angle, have seen my softness buried, okay, underneath a very hard exterior because that's how you have to survive. On top of that, we are in a space which is, full freedom for everybody in the sense of the creative space. We're all experimenting and pushing the boundaries as much as possible. We're all trying to establish, an identity or a language or our communication styles or, it's a broad spectrum where everybody is trying to figure out themselves. And I feel like Accra's creative space right now is kind of asking itself a lot of questions as to how are we doing this? Who are we? What is the models? Are they institutions? The structures? We have to definitely put these pillars in place. So I think, yeah, Accra for me is navigating these things now. I'm living in a very small bubble because I live where I work. I literally do not see much of Accra. I don't do the traffic. I don't do all the craziness in town. I'm very focused on what I'm doing. I think I need to live and operate that way for a while. Yeah, and thanks to events like these, I tend to go out. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, thank you. If we are yours too, what is Accra for you, and how do you manage the space?
Accra has also been home and not home. It has been many things. Workplace, inspiration, but I think as well currently I'm in a very difficult relationship, trying to balance sustainability for myself. Um, as an artist, as a performer, especially as a performer doing certain types of work where really the work speaks to the context of where I live, but at the same time, you have these very real questions of support and training and like you find yourself playing these institutional roles that you should not be playing as an individual. I mean,
Yeah.
with the space for me, the number of people who come through and the requests that come through. I'm not gonna say like everything here, but like you you're carrying so much for so many groups, and there's still more still more that is needed and still more that I mean you can't fill, but you kind of need certain things to be in place as an artist, because I'm a practitioner as well as somebody who happened to end up being an administrator. And it's just these questions of like what is really sustainable. Are enough of us thinking the questions that Stefani was saying about questions people are asking themselves about the art space? Are enough people asking the right questions? Are enough people working with their hearts in the right place? That this is going to make sense for all of us in a few years. Um, and I think that questioning and that's almost, yeah, having your own bubble as well, because I do as well try not to participate in certain things in order to keep myself balanced, because I don't think there's any way that you can fully participate in Accra in its fullness and maintain your sanity. So that's where I am right now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, talking about insanity, maybe we'll get there soon because it seems from the beginning, reading, dramatized reading, all the men in Accra are already mad. So I wonder what. Yeah, we are going to talk about when we get there. But it's true, the two of you say you like to maintain your bubble. But what's the space for collaboration within this bubble that you maintain? Maybe if we're first. Yeah, you want the bubble because you need to focus, but by the nature of the work you do, you need to collaborate. So how does that also work with you?
Yeah, we've been very open in the past. That's gonna change out of necessity, because again, there's only so much you can do. Especially for us, we are a nonprofit. We are not really tied into for-profit models at the moment, and so when we talk about collaboration, I've always been quite open, but at the same time, right now we want people to hold themselves to a higher standard. We've had people come in and wreck the space quite badly. We've had people come in and disrespect people. We've also had some really incredible collaborations. I'll shout out Oroko Radio that they've been one of our residents for I think it's 3.5 years, 2 or 3 years, and they've been really on top of it in terms of sticking to our terms that we've given them, asking for what they need, making sure there's a bit of a two-way. We've also had some really great dancers, and we tend to accept people into that pool of people kind of organically. So you've been coming to our programs, you sign up on our mailing list, you show up when we have workshops. And then outside of that, right now we're trying to demand that people professionalize a little bit, because as much as we're all figuring things out, I think there's a baseline of behavior that just makes the work easier as well, because we are professionals. As much as we may enjoy what we do, we need to grow, we need to move beyond just for me this whole art for art's sake thing, or the immediate reward of the social media or whatever attention that you're getting, and start thinking about like what kind of impacts are we looking for, both socially, economically, whatever, and starting to work with people whose minds are in that, or in that frame of, who are in that frame of mind, or who are open to changing the way that they view their practice, especially for performance-based artists. So yeah, I don't know
Thank
if
you.
that answers the
Yeah,
question, but
yeah, 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 definitely. Yes, and you?
Well, most of what I do is based on collaboration. So I think for me it's like a daily, and that's why I keep it contained because it could get very expansive. Um, we work with getting to almost 300 brands, so on a monthly basis it's checkups with everybody, check-ins, reports, and all that stuff. Um, and we work with each one of them even on collaboration basis. So, like this week we had Mensa come through to talk about his latest album, which is something we were always doing in the past, having musicians come through and, do the walkthrough of maybe the fan base or the hardcore fan base in an intimate setting. We've hosted many situations like that. So we sell his merch in the store. It makes perfect sense to host such evenings. And I also recently went into partnership with the Ghana Enterprise Agency and Mastercard Young Africa Works Foundation to run Ghana Mall, which is an initiative they have, to promote those who are written up to the project.
Sorry for that.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, so it's a constant, collaboration with people in general. Some of it has changed though when it comes to space, because we used to have a lot more space available, and we keep getting requests for, I need a space to do this, I need a space to do that, and we lost lots of leases expired and we just didn't renew, and so lots of the, let's say, the environment that was being used for experimentation of all kinds is not available now. So it's not a question of if you're doing it within the store, does it make sense, or I'll just point you elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I'm always open to them because there's a lot of people who need that help. And then there's still people you can, work with. So we tend to gravitate to those we know. We've had past experiences with them. There's a relationship. We all know the trajectory of what has been happening within our space. It's easier. And then there's a lot else going on which I have no clue about because age gap, interests. Like she's saying, we have to do so much admin now that it's insane. So you spend your days doing more of that than being a creative. And yeah, so it's like you're also evolving with your space as it's growing, and there's a lot that comes with that that maybe we don't foresee when you start out.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, so before we get to the insanity part, what about sustainability? I mean, a lot of the things I hear, yeah, as Ekwa said, we are very open before. You were saying you work with a lot of people, but bills need to be paid, the space needs to be maintained. How do you run the place? And how do you fund the place? I know in Ghana there is no avenue for funding. You have to do everything yourself. So how do you do that? Maybe with you, and then we go to Ekwa.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the spaces are really the issue. And you have people who don't understand, what you're allowing them to have access to. They don't appreciate, or, they just take it for granted. Yes, there's a lot to say about that. Like the question again was
Sustainability.
sustainability,
Yeah,
right?
how do you
So,
hold
I mean,
space?
like for me, things changed. I had a space that wasn't being paid for. So it was a compound that was kind of abandoned. It was an old workshop. It was just kind of sitting there. Portions of it were being used by different people. And I mean, I saw more could be done with it, so I did. And so far as I'm not paying for something, I don't feel the need to let someone pay for it. So that was the model we had in the beginning. And because it's free, people will handle it as if it's free. So you wise up, as time goes by. You start creating contracts and, doing the professional things. So that is what happened as we started to see more and more requests coming in, and then you have more experiences and you learn your lessons as you go along. So yeah, in that sense, that was the approach. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer. And maybe, Elizabeth, how do you go about yours?
I think we are reviewing a lot as well because we started also very open. I myself had started the space because I needed space. So I really understood the challenges that people have. I think what Stefania is saying about people taking things for granted, especially when maybe you're not familiar, you're used to maybe rehearsing in the street. And so when you enter a space, you then proceed to treat the space like it's the part of the street. And at some point, you as the person creating, because I funded it mostly from personal funds. We did do a fundraiser in 2017 that gave us about a third of the money that was needed for that initial stage. And the rest of it has been paid for kind of out of pocket. So I'm creating my own work, I'm selling work, and then using that money to fund the space. And people don't seem to understand that this is it's a personal investment. I could have been living a very comfortable life in my corner with my own personal studio and opened it up. But there's a lot of like entitlement sometimes, and also I think this lack of understanding and also lack of vision. You come into a space because we've those of you who know the space, it's gone from really kind of bare ground, red, muddy, bare ground to what it is today, and we're not even close to where we want to be. So, lack of saying that, hey, this is something that somebody's building. I need this. Artists need this, and this needs to exist for other people to use in the future. Has been quite difficult to teach people. There are some really great people, but I think overwhelmingly right now, the question we're asking as a team is what is actually worth it? And how is it worth it to interface with the community? Because at some point, it's detrimental to me as an individual to keep putting my money into something where just case in point example, somebody broke our main water pipe, didn't say anything, and then 6,000 CDs of a bill later, it's like, oh, sorry. It's like, no, this is not acceptable because that's my personal money that now has to go into something that was totally unnecessary. And there needs to be I think some really radical shifts around how people interact with the art space in general. Artists and some of the spaces that are coming up where the people are not necessarily practitioners, but maybe they like the idea, and we're all treating it as this worthwhile thing that is worth in and of itself. But I actually think some justification is needed on some fronts, especially where you see that sometimes spaces exist a couple months or a couple years later, they're kind of down the drain. And a lot of spaces like somewhere like our local that still exists in Bouquet, it's not because of the artists, I would argue, in a certain type of way, and maybe that's a bit controversial, but people need to learn how to support the institutions that we claim that we want, because otherwise we're just not going to have continuity. And I think that's That's our big challenge right now is what does continuity look like, and how is that going to change the organization? Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think we've gotten to that point where maybe the audience would also want to ask the two panelists something about their practice. I thought we'd have images, but I mean, those of us who know their work know that it's a labor of love. Yes, but maybe if you leave me, I'll just keep talking and talking. So I
I
open
have a
up.
few images.
Pardon?
I do have a few images. Do you want me to? I don't know
Yeah,
how
please,
you.
you can share so that we have a sense of the work. And then
Host,
maybe after that, you talk also about your creative side when you're not doing administration.
okay. The host has disabled participant screen sharing. So, Mr. Host or Miss Host.
Please
Admin.
enable the participant to screen share.
Yeah, but just continuing on the conversation even of sustainability and stuff. I think a lot of times you're also forced to branch out into so many different things just to keep things running, because there's not one alone that can carry the whole load of everything. So like we have had to do the Airbnbs to pay for our rent, you know. Um, then you make them look different, or you try and make them very unique. Um, the shop itself, there's lots of brands. We work on consignment, so we don't necessarily have to purchase items before. So you have to keep your business very slim so it can pivot anytime you need to, because we're constantly reimagining things on a daily basis. Um, I don't consider what I do strictly retail because there's so much else involved with it. But it's also not just entertainment or any of those things. And that's something like through my life I've always been doing too much probably. Uh, but it's what's led to this. Um, and yeah, just like hey, it takes forever for you to get a space up to a certain standard, or I've been operating for 16 years now, and we're now seeing something on the ground that's tangible, that's been there for so long, that has a history. And it's the same with Terralta. So I pass it to you since you're ready.
I just put some photos together. So to give a feel of the space for people who haven't been there, we have everything from exhibitions. We do a program for kids and young adults that performs both on site and off site. In different spaces, we provide space for people to try, experiment things, to host. So Oracle Radio is one of our resident companies. This is a DJ training workshop that they, music production workshop that they hosted. We have community work days where a lot of the labor in the space has actually been people coming in to volunteer. We have a dance program, and we do artist development, so testing out ideas with people. This is Mei Ling Loco, the architect. She and the OR Foundation, they had a group of mixed students and community members from their Kansamantu recycling project, creating earth bricks on site. So we host other groups like that. We also have some welders. This is Humphrey, who's teaching somebody how to weld. This is also the OR Foundation. And the space, yeah. So I mean, it's very, very, very DIY. I think Stefania used that word, and it's all made of recycled materials. And yeah, we have a. That's just to give a feel of what goes on. It's not glamorous. Most of the time, it's not very glamorous. But yeah.
Thank you for that. And so, yes, we need public engagement. So the audience, if you have any thoughts, any ideas, any questions for Stefania and Elizabeth, you can ask. Please don't leave me to keep on blabbing because I am. But also you can ask people questions. I think that would be nice when they have
Reverse
what do you
interview.
think of our work in the space? But any collaborators here actually? Yeah, there are people here in the audience. Yeah, you have a question. Yes, let's go. Okay, questions for Stefania and Elizabeth. Do you write books?
So,
I
this,
myself know. I don't write any books, but I write some stories once a while. So they're shorter stories.
funny thing is, one of the things I want to stop, I want to steal some time back from Sarah is to write because I have a huge backlog of a lot of different things, including a little novella that has taken me entirely too long to work on. So, but I have done some academic writing as well because I was teaching at some point, which again I don't have too much time to do. But yeah, I do write quite a bit.
So maybe it's a question coming from a good place. Maybe it's since you have such experience, maybe it's time also to start putting these experiences together so that you become, I mean, because you are models that people can study. And so why not be the one that starts this dissemination through books, through texts, through films? Yeah, maybe it's a good question. Thank you for that question, actually. Yeah, we should clap for. Yes? Yeah. The mic is coming to you.
So I'm wondering what growth looks like for both of you, not as in personally, but for the spaces that you create and manage. Thank you.
Okay. So the question is what growth looks like for us, not personally, but for the spaces that we are managing. So for me personally, it would be able to have the spaces readily available because that's really the issue for lots of us. We establish something in a space and then the space is no longer available for whatever reason, leases or other stuff. And finding new places is very difficult because they're very expensive. Location is not always, the best. And for me, being able to have multiple situations where the youth and creativity can flourish, so it's not tied to just the few that already exist, is what I see growth in the space. So we've seen a lot of new spaces pop up, not necessarily just ours, but just a lot of people within the space are now opening galleries, opening multi-purpose workspaces. They're opening maybe a bar, but it then can be used for concerts. There's lots of mixing of roles within all the spaces we have in town, and that's because we don't have like the centers for certain things to happen in. We have the theater that's there, we have plays going on there, but then I don't think it's being used more, maybe to the capacity with which it should be used. And it's like we have a lot of new things coming up all the time, but some get forgotten. We don't have a maintenance culture, because old buildings, maybe like Rex Cinema that we're trying to revive, these things have historical value. So if we start to take these spaces more seriously, start to give them the importance, when you go to Europe or to the West, they keep their history visible. It's there in the streets for you to see. And we don't have this kind of mentality. So I would just like to see more, more of this kind of growth of people being able to set up things that work. And in our space, if we have more locations personally for us, that would be great because then we can do more. That's really the bottom line, yeah.
And what's your take? also. There's
Sorry,
spaces.
with more spaces
Ah,
comes more headaches, though,
yeah,
and that's
well, yes.
that's a very, very, very serious factor when you want to expand here. The headaches that come with it.
Yeah.
So sometimes, yeah, you may even have the opportunity to, and it's just very hard to do. And we need helpers. We need people to come on board to support. Most of us are really fighting battles on our own. And yeah, we meet up and talk about our struggles, but then we're not like leaning on each other as pillars. Everyone's kind of like struggling in their own little bubble. So it's hard. I mean, we say we want to do more, we want to grow more, we want to, but like our personal strength is also limited.
Well,
Yeah, I think again, I'm kind of on the same page. I think there, for me, more meaningful engagement. I think that sometimes we do talk. It's not that we don't talk, but we talk about the wrong things. We don't engage on some of these things that are really real issues. So, for instance, this tickets fee that they've put on is like 21%. It doesn't make any sense if you're doing theater to have a 21% tax on your tickets because you are most of the time already not making like even a quarter of
Ends
your
meet,
budget on it.
yeah.
And then to have that tax on top of it as a blanket because the figures look so big or whatever. And then you try to engage like, hey, let's get a group of people together and go engage on this because there's no begging GRA unless there's an act of parliament. So at what point are we looking at these more meaningful ways of engagement instead of looking at social media and AI and all these sexy topics? But at the end of the day, what's affecting the growth of the industry on the ground? What's affecting our day-to-day lives as artists? Stephanie has mentioned rent. Stephanie has mentioned a whole bunch of stuff. And it's like, at what point do we concretize these type of things and who's ready to do that? Because sometimes people are not ready to do that work. They're okay with how things are going. They'll say all the nice things, but when it's time to like let's address things, it's not just about protesting or making your voice heard on social media, but it's also about who's going to do that real work of like writing to the government or doing the research or engaging some of these bodies that we complain about. And the dreams are many and they're big, but at the end of the day, if the environment doesn't support the dream, because there are no laws or the attitudes are not right, or we're just not asking the right questions or engaging in the right way, then you also have to think about what you're doing and in the context that you're doing it, because for me, a lot of it is about where the thing is happening. And I think that we have to really look at our city and our country and see with the policies that are the new cultural policy, the different things that people are trying to put in place, like, is this dream, does this dream fit here a little bit? Maybe that's a bit pessimistic, but yeah, because for us, I want to focus on what I do, which is performance-based practice, and you're having to do all sorts of things for people. I mean, sometimes literally even paying health bills for people, hospital bills, and part of that is just Ghana life. You become by force a Busia when you're in certain positions. But yeah, it's growth for me looks like addressing some of those things in a very real way, that individuals should not be taking care of some things that the state should be taking care of, or that at least the state should be making space for people who are taking care of things that they are supposed to be taking care of. I think that's what growth looks like for me. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we should clap. Is that? Yeah. Okay. Mike.
Um, so, do you, any of you ever apply for grants or sponsorship or things like that in order to help you to achieve this growth? And how does that pan out when you do?
So I've applied for one grant. Probably should have done more by now. It's uh, it's difficult to find those which don't come with strings attached, sometimes. And because what we've created up to date has been very personal, it's been, a very intimate journey and all that. Um, I'm very slow at allowing people to tell me how to do things, just because it's tied to a sponsorship or it's coming with, some funds. And a lot of times also maybe the criteria doesn't, fit for you. So there might be funds available, but then you don't fit the criteria. So it gets difficult in that sense. And there is an art, to writing proposals, and it takes a lot of time, which you are trying to fit into your day in between all the rest of the chaos. So it gets. I haven't had anyone I can hand that over to, to do for me. Um, so it's difficult for me, to sometimes approach these conversations, but definitely needed. And this year is what like my focus has actually been. So we did get partnerships and we've gotten grants. It helps. A lot of times you don't get what you ask for also. So you have a plan in your head, but it won't be enough. So now you have to maybe match some of it yourself, which I'm already struggling. I can't match it. So there's lots of reasons why maybe that avenue may be difficult. But it still helps if you're able to get the support.
Akoi?
Yeah. The
Grant?
same. We've applied for grants. And again, the problem is you are more likely to get money for an event where you are doing a little song and dance to the tune of the funder than to actually get money to do what you want to do. And the whole point for me for creating an independent art space was to be independent. So if it's not going to support programming that's in the direction that we're already going in, then it's not worth it. And that makes it incredibly difficult to kind of find things that are in line. And yes, it's not as simple as, oh, just find some money, because a lot of the time the money is very political, and sometimes you apply and you still don't get it. So there's that as well. So yeah, the question of money is very tricky, because even in terms of things like donations, people can give, but there's not really a lot of incentives for people to support things like this. From a governmental side, you should technically be able to write it off, but yeah, it's quite tricky trying to make things work here from a financial perspective. So most of the time we have to earn the money, yeah, yourself.
Another question? You have another question?
Why don't you just join together to make the world better?
Do it together.
This is a call
If
to
did you
all
hear
of
that?
us. Why don't you just join together to make the world better?
Dara, that's exactly what we have to do.
Yes.
So we will work on it. Okay?
But that's probably also why festivals like Peja are there.
Exactly.
To bring people together, yeah, so that we don't suffer in our various bubbles. We come and share what we do. And some also share the way they are able to jump over some of these hurdles. Yeah, Uton Uyare Naunya and Wedro, isn't it? If you sell your sickness, you will get the mouth medicine. I mean, I'm just transliterating, but literally means that when you share your issues out in the open to a community, and a caring community, a safe community, you are able to get healing out of it. And so I think this is what these stand for. So, and it is great that it's coming from the mouth of the youngest here. It shows that there is hope for the future. Elections are coming, and a lot of us are dreading who to vote for. But if we have this coming from the young ones, then maybe there's something to stand up for in the future. So maybe I think we should give a round of applause again. Maybe we are nearing the end, so let's talk about why we are who we are. We are first and foremost artists. And so what's creativity, what's creation, and what's doing that work apart from the administration and all that, to get away from the insanity that all these breed. What is creativity for you? What's a time away? What does it do? And what then results in your creative space? Elizabeth and then Stephanie.
For me, I really just have been rediscovering and enjoying being in my body as a dancer. I've been taking some time off Terra stuff to work. I work a lot with archives. I work a lot with memory. So memory that lives in our bodies. Things like songs that we used to sing. Things like dances that are passed along from generation to generation that kind of are outside the traditional ways of, we think about books, we think about literature that's written in places that are not pieces of paper, and the traditional kind of way that we think about how things are written and passed down. But that I really believe that especially in African societies where a lot of it is carried orally, we also have somatic history that is inscribed in our bodies. And so a lot of my work right now is looking at dance practice, but also spaces where bodies have lived and passed through archival material that is not only text-based in terms of words, but also in terms of image. And I'm making a few new pieces based on these ideas of memory and body and somatic history, and that's what's lifting me right now, I guess.
Thank you. And you?
In terms of creativity, so I just kind of like to experiment with things that come up. So currently, I'm playing with AI a lot and just discovering the medium, because why not? It's here. Yeah, looking at that, and there's kind of infinite possibilities. So just kind of experimenting a bit on some programming and some visuals using AI. Just seeing what, again, that's how things happen. You just play around with stuff and you come up with something else. So I think creativity in general, it's like we're just beings that are made to create. And if you're not doing it, you're just, you won't feel okay. That's how it is for me, at least. So there's always something I'm busy doing. If it's not just thinking quietly, it's using my hands to do something. Spaces are also a big thing I like to work with, so doing interiors and decor and stuff like that are the next expressions probably for me. So yeah, combining AI in my daily and working with spaces.
So yeah, thank you very much, Elizabeth, Ifwa Sutherland and Stefania Manfreda for doing the tail line for us. We know you are strong people. You said Accra hardens you, but I think your art also allows you to maintain your sanity.
Yes.
because that's what also helps us to maintain our sanity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being a wonderful audience. And thank you once again for coming, honoring our invitation.
Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to another one next year. And Peja is almost through. Weeks, months, actually years of preparation, and then now it's almost all over. It's like a dream. But let's all gather here for Live Across Africa. It's never a Peja without the closing event, which is Live Across Africa. And Apioko Seram Ashong Abi would be the host. So in a few minutes, we'll start Live Across Africa. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, once again. And thank you,
Thank you.
very much. Yeah. Thanks.
The steps at the back.